few things that could have made it better. A couple of the witnesses were a little too silly, and especially when introducing themselves, and the one about critiquing Mongolian barbecues and things, and then the other, the converse on the other side, the silly witness there. Especially that first sentence isn't going to be so silly in the real world. The attorneys are going to make sure that at least that you're not going to be a ditz, at least for the first things out of your mouth. Now, I assume occasionally it can happen under the nervousness of a trial, but normally ditziness will come out gradually instead of like, bang, here it is, whoop, there it is. It's not going to be like that. On the jury, y'all spent most of your time looking at the judge, and the judge isn't going to be deciding anything. And juries will be bored, close their eyes, look around, do all the things I was doing to be stupid and annoying to you. But you still got to try and catch my eye. And the lawyers, one way, if the witnesses aren't looking at the jury, and okay, if the witness looking at the lawyer, that's fine. But looking at the judge all the time, that doesn't matter. If one thing a lawyer can do is kind of just gradually move over toward the jury and get near the jury, so that way the line of sight from the witness goes to the jury. It helps. It kind of humanizes the person and everything. So that's a few more objections for some of you. That sometimes there are opportunities you didn't take, and sometimes even, and a couple of you, even when the objection was pretty stupid, it was good because it interrupted the flow. A person gets on a roll with the questioning, and if you can throw out a stupid objection, get them off the game a little bit, that can help. Doesn't always, but it can. A couple of you were really dogged at getting right back to where you were after the objection, but a couple of you it took you a second. And so an occasional objection. And then also, kind of, if you have a good point, pound it home. But if the person is pounding it home, object. There was one, and I don't remember who y'all it was, but one of you was saying, he cuts your check, right? Yeah. He pays your salary, right? Yeah. If he employs you, right? Yeah. If he doesn't pay you, you're going to lose your job and be out in the streets, right? Yeah. You want to have his baby, right? At some point, the other side had to say, objection, asked and answered, stop this. But if you're doing it and pounding on them, they're letting you do it, it's wonderful. So if you have a chance and you have a good point, just keep beating on them. And if they're beating on them and you're on the other side, stop it. There were times when witnesses were going into too much detail, when you were crossing, the witness would go into too much detail, giving too much nuance. You want a yes or a no. You want it bare bones. And they're saying, well, yeah, but blah, 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 and giving all the extenuating sources. Don't let the other side do that. So tell them to knock it off or ask the judge, would you please have them directly answer the question? Okay, so don't give the opposing side's witness the chance to make themselves look better. And conversely, if you're a witness under cross-examination, try and get as much nuance in there as you can. Make them stop you from going into detail and explaining the extenuating circumstance that made you have to give $250,000 and go on a walk with a bunch of money. And then I thought that the two closing counsels were wonderful. I looked forward to the battle because y'all were so good. Everybody was good. This was a really good match. But you closing counsels, you were top of your game. I really looked forward to it. And you were both excellent. Jaleesa, you really marshaled your evidence. You were very natural. it was wonderful to watch. And Rebecca, you were off the charts. I don't think I've ever seen a close as good, and I've judged 20 of these miserable things in my life. And I was in mock trial and law school, and I've never seen such a good close. It was wonderful. It was as good a matchup as I've ever seen. And then it made it even better, as I'd look up, and you were sitting there with this just sad, help me, please look on your face. Every time I'd look, you had the appropriate look. So it was, the closing round was perfect. That's all.
Well, I agree really in general, and I won't add too much to it. I think that, yeah, it seemed like a really strong round to me. I don't have the history of mock trial, but I like, the stuff. I want to say, on the objections, I agree the objections were pretty much all hearsay and relevance, and I think asked and answered was one that I was looking for. There were lots of times I would have sustained an asked and answered objection, and it wasn't made. On these, I'm mostly looking for the argument that you all have on the objections. I enjoy that part, which is why I go back and forth, because it's fun for me. What I'm looking, I think that both sides seemed a little bit at sea with that, cite the rule, cite the reason, be confident. Just because I'm asking you to if you have a response doesn't mean you have to say anything new. And the confidence in the nature of your objection can be helpful. I do agree that both sides let witnesses on cross talk too much. You can badger a little bit. I agree. The closing, the overall presentation, getting through everything was very good. I like a little more road mapping. I like a little more preview of how you're going to take me through things. That's a personal preference. But I do think all the information was covered very solidly. In general, I think the base characterization of all the witnesses was appropriate for the evidence you had and was done in a way to support your side. I agree on the ditziness. I think that, yeah, attorneys would probably get that out. But it could certainly come out strategically. That's probably a good way to think about, when you're portraying the character, think about when the pressure would lead to such a reaction. Could be a good combination to have that characterization, but have it be more realistic. But good decorum, good use of this slightly awkward space, and all those things. So thanks for a good round.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. I've been a practicing attorney for a little over 8 years. Not really a lot of trial work, which is fine, but I was in-house counsel with the labor union, and I've been with the Ohio Senate Democratic Caucus for about 3 years.
I'm a history professor, and I was a lawyer for just 3 years, something. I was a professor, and then a lawyer for a few years, and I thought I liked professing better, and went back to professing.
Great.
Thank you so much.